They only respect power, never kindness. You learn this not in triumph, but in loss. Not in the moment they smile, but in the moment they strike. Kindness is mistaken for permission, compassion for hesitation, mercy for weakness. In the theater of power, perception is law, and law is illusion. The world does not wait for good men. It bends to those who bend others. Leadership is not love. It is the art of being feared just enough, respected deeply, obeyed without question. To lead is to calculate what others will dare to do when you turn your back and ensure they dare nothing. To be trusted not out of affection, but because the cost of betrayal is too great. The lion cannot explain his intentions to the antelope. He simply devours. This is not cruelty. It is survival. In politics, affection is a currency too easily counterfeited. Men will swear loyalty while digging graves behind your back. They will toast your health while counting your weaknesses. The throne is never safe. Only guarded. And the more visible your virtue, the more inevitable your downfall. Because men envy what they cannot be. They hate what humbles them. The leader who rises through charisma alone is loved for a season, then despised when admiration turns to resentment. But the leader who survives is the one who is feared, not for what he does, but for what he might do. You must become a mirror that reflects their ambition back at them, distorted, dwarfed, destroyed. Power does not come from titles. It does not reside in laws. It lives in control. The power to grant, the power to deny, to shape perception, to command attention, to instill consequences. A ruler is not the servant of truth. He is its architect. If the people need a savior, become one. If they fear a tyrant, become one. They can endure. Stability is not born of morality, but of momentum. You do not win by being right. You win by not bleeding. Do not chase justice. Chase results. Let others cling to ideals. You must cling to outcomes. Appear virtuous, but be lethal. Smile when needed. Cut when required. A state is not governed by principles. It is governed by decisions. And decisions must be made in solitude, in silence, in shadows, where the cost of hesitation is collapse. Men crave order, not freedom. They want predictability cloaked in the illusion of choice. Give them theater, give them enemies, give them distractions, and in return, they will give you obedience. Build myths, shape narratives, own the symbols, for perception is the leash on the animal mind. They only respect power, never kindness. Kindness must be used like a blade, hidden, drawn only to cut and put away just as swiftly. Because when the mob is hungry, it eats the kind first. And when the vultures circle, they look for the open hand, not the clenched fist. Power isolates. It must. Familiarity breeds contempt. Distance creates awe. Let them speak your name with reverence, not comfort. With caution, not closeness. You were not made to be loved. You were made to endure. And in the end, history does not remember kindness. It remembers victory. They only respect power, never kindness. Power begins in silence, not in noise, not in violence, but in the calm precision before the strike. Every ruler must master silence, not as absence, but as a presence more terrifying than words. Silence unsettles. It makes men doubt what you are thinking, what you are planning, what you know. In that uncertainty, you reign. A loud ruler invites questions. A quiet ruler provokes fear. Never explain. Explanation breeds expectation, and once they expect reason, they will begin to measure your choices against their own. That is the beginning of revolt, not with fire, but with comparisons. The moment they believe they could rule in your place, you have already begun to fall. You must be indispensable, yet replaceable in theory, never in practice. To build a durable state, you must build obedience into the bones of the people, not through devotion. Devotion dies with sentiment. Build it through structure, through systems, through habits of fear disguised as routine. Let them wake each day to rules they no longer question. Let them forget the moment the rule began. Let them teach their children to obey without knowing why. That is victory not in the battlefield, but in the mind. Never punish to correct, punish to demonstrate. Let one fall so that 10 may learn. Make the punishment visible, but the line of judgment invisible. They should never be certain why the axe fell, only that it can fall at any time. That is how you govern the hidden instincts of a population, not by reason, but by conditioning. Because man is not driven by truth. He is driven by terror of the unknown, lust for advantage, and fear of exclusion. Power must offer protection, but always with the cost of dependence. Give too much freedom, and they will forget who allowed it. Give too little, and they will seek to reclaim it. The balance lies in managing their discomfort, never letting them suffer enough to rise, but never letting them rest enough to dream. If you must inspire, inspire vigilance, not hope. Hope breeds delusion. Delusion breeds revolution. But vigilance makes them alert, grateful, tired. A tired population does not rebel. It works, it consumes, it obeys. The illusion of fairness is your greatest asset. Institutions must seem impartial, even when they are weapons. Let the people believe the court decides, the law interprets, the process protects, but ensure the outcome is always what the state requires. Never announce control, disguise it, wrap it in procedure. People resist commands, but they submit to protocols. Control their time, their choices, their fears. You do not need to control their thoughts. Merely make them afraid to speak them aloud. That silence becomes your dominion. They only respect power, never kindness. Kindness without control is suicide. Power without kindness is stability. Combine the appearance of one with the substance of the other, and they will confuse your domination for benevolence. And when they finally notice the weight around their neck, they will thank you for the collar, because it kept them safe. Loyalty is not given, it is leased, and the lease is always expiring. Men are loyal only when the costs of disloyalty exceed the rewards. Never confuse gratitude for allegiance. Gratitude fades. Self-interest does not. If they follow you, it is because they fear what happens if they don't, or they believe that by following they will rise. The moment either condition changes, the moment fear dulls, or ambition sharpens, the knife will appear. Not from the enemy, but from your friend. Enemies you can anticipate. Friends are the true architects of downfall. Because betrayal requires intimacy. Only those close to you can strike the heart. The outsider can challenge, yes, but the trusted can destroy. That is why you must trust sparingly, and even then, never without leverage. You must know their vices better than their virtues. A man ruled by vice is more reliable than one governed by idealism. The ambitious can be bought, the proud can be threatened. The loyal they are the most dangerous, because they act without calculation, and what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. Make everyone calculable. Make no one indispensable. You must cultivate rivals, even among your allies. Divide their ambitions, feed their jealousy. Keep their eyes on each other so they do not look too long at you. Paranoia is not madness in a ruler, it is maintenance. Trust must be weaponized, not given freely, but granted in doses enough to ensnare, never enough to empower. Give them titles, give them ceremonies, give them the illusion of influence. But let them walk through doors that lead to walls. Let them climb ladders that reach only the ceiling of your will. Because once a man believes he has real power, he will test it. And every test is a threat. When you are betrayed, strike not at the betrayer alone, but at the idea of betrayal itself. Make it expensive, make it final, make it public, not for justice, for memory. Let the act become legend. Because in politics, reputation is not what you are, it is what others fear you might be. Let every hand that hesitates against you remember what hesitation spared and what rebellion destroyed. You must become not merely respected, but irreversible. There is no such thing as personal betrayal in command. There is only failure to anticipate. Every betrayal is your own weakness, reflected back at you. You trusted too much. You forgave too quickly. You misjudged the hunger in another man's eyes. And hunger is the only honest thing in politics. Loyalty can be purchased, yes, but only temporarily. What cannot be bought is resignation. The deep, cold realization among your followers that you cannot be replaced, that no betrayal will elevate them, only expose them. That is what you must instill, not affection, not admiration, but futility. Once they see resistance as suicide, you no longer need to rule by threats. You rule by gravity. You become the axis, the fixed point, and every orbit, every ambition, every whisper must curve around you. This is not love. This is not friendship. This is dominion. They only respect power, never kindness. Kindness is the mask they wear while waiting to betray. So wear your own, but never forget the face beneath it. Perception is the battlefield. Image is the weapon. Reality, in the hands of a skilled ruler, is irrelevant. A lie, repeated with confidence, becomes law. A truth spoken without power is discarded like a beggar's cry. Appearances are not ornaments. They are artillery. The people do not see you. They see the projection, the mask, the myth. Feed it, refine it. Let them see only what you allow. Because once you control what they believe, you no longer need to control what they know. Do not seek transparency. Seek opacity, mystery, an aura of distance and inevitability. Let them speak your name with questions, not familiarity. Let them guess at your thoughts, argue over your intent, construct fictions in your absence. They will fear you more for what they cannot confirm. Visibility is vulnerability. The more they see, the less they fear. You must become a shadow cast on their hopes, a specter woven into their stories, a symbol too large to touch and too rooted to remove. Politics is theater, and the audience demands a role. Give it to them. Let them believe they are part of the play. Let them choose between two outcomes you already decided. Let them shout, protest, praise all within the walls you built. A controlled opposition is better than no opposition at all. Because power without spectacle is brittle. Even fear must be dressed in the garments of glory. Give them parades, give them slogans, give them a face they can adore even as the machine grinds beneath their feet. Symbols are shortcuts to obedience. A flag, a phrase, a gesture. Use them. Fill them with your meaning. Burn away ambiguity. Make your image the lens through which they see the world. And when truth threatens you, drown it in noise. Not with censorship alone, but with chaos. Flood them with conflicting narratives. Let them argue among themselves. Let them forget what they once knew. Truth does not die in silence. It dies in confusion. That is how you rule a modern world, not with swords, but with screens, not with bullets, but with belief. They only respect power, never kindness. And the most enduring power is the kind they choose to believe in, because it was never forced upon them. It seduced them. Do not underestimate the hunger for certainty. People will trade freedom for clarity. They will surrender doubt for unity. They will kneel not out of coercion, but out of fatigue. Give them something to believe, and you will own them more completely than any tyrant who rules by force alone. But never believe your own myth. The ruler who falls is the one who forgets he is acting. Remember, the image is a weapon, not a mirror. Behind the mask, you must remain calculating, detached, aware of the gap between what they see and what you are. The day you confuse the two, you begin to decay. You are not a god. You are an illusionist, and illusions must be renewed constantly. They only respect power, never kindness. And power, today, wears the robes of charisma, the smile of democracy, the voice of the people. But make no mistake, the hand behind the curtain must remain yours. Peace is the dream of the ruled. War is the tool of the ruler. There is no such thing as lasting peace, only the pause between campaigns. Conflict is not failure, it is opportunity. It reveals loyalties, justifies control, and cleanses doubt. It forces men to choose sides, and in doing so, it makes them visible. You cannot rule what hides in ambiguity. You cannot control what floats between silence and dissent. War hardens the lines. It brings enemies into the light. It makes obedience a matter of survival, not sentiment. And that is the ruler's advantage. Do not wait for conflict. Engineer it. If there is no enemy, create one. If there is no rebellion, provoke one. If there is no crisis, manufacture it, because power solidifies in fire, not in comfort. A people at war are easier to control than a people at rest. War makes them grateful, fear makes them united, and suffering, if directed outward, makes them loyal. They will thank the hand that punishes them, so long as it claims to protect them from something worse. The enemy is your greatest ally so long as you choose him carefully. Never select an enemy too weak to be feared or too strong to be defeated. Choose the enemy that reflects your needs, to distract, to unify, to justify. Give him a face, a name, a flag, then promise his destruction. And in that promise you will find power. Because in times of war, the laws bend. The people accept the unacceptable. They surrender rights, question less, sacrifice more. They suspend morality for the illusion of safety. And you become not just ruler, but savior. War expands the ruler's field of play. But beware, never love the fire, control it. Too much war and your people turn numb. Too little, and they grow soft, forgetful of the cost of freedom, the necessity of obedience. You must keep them near the flame, but never let them burn. Fear must be sustained, not suffocating. And the soldiers, they are your message. They carry not just weapons, but warning. Their discipline is your signature, their loyalty, your legend. A ruler without an army is a priest with no God. Do not let the army love the nation more than it fears you. Because he who controls the violence controls the state. He who commands the command commands everything. War is not chaos, it is mathematics. Balance sheets of blood and will. It must be precise, selective, never random. The sword must always appear necessary, never eager. Strike only when the cost of restraint outweighs the cost of blood, and when you strike, make it irreversible. Let them understand. You may be patient, but you are never weak. Mercy after victory is permissible. Mercy before victory is suicide. They only respect power, never kindness. And war is the most ancient theater of power, not for the deaths it brings, but for the clarity it demands. It strips away illusion. It sharpens resolve. It reveals who truly rules and who merely survives. A ruler does not avoid war. A ruler shapes it, names it, ends it, then waits for the next. Because so long as men envy, desire, hate, war will come, and he who prepares rules. He who hesitates dies. Every ruler walks alone. Even at the height of command, surrounded by voices, hands, rituals, advisors, you are already in exile, not from the land, but from the comfort of belonging. You may lead the people, but you are not one of them. You cannot be. You must not be. Familiarity is fatal to authority. The man who is too often seen becomes common. The man who is too often heard becomes ignorable. The man who confesses, who pleads, who seeks kinship becomes a servant to the crowd's mercy. Power cannot rest in warmth. It must be cold, remote, calculating. You will long sometimes for affection. You will remember the softness of trust, the simplicity of being unknown, but you gave that up the moment you chose to rule. Leadership does not offer companionship. It offers obedience. and even loyalty must be rented with fear. You will be surrounded by people who speak your name with reverence, and none will speak it with honesty. Every compliment hides an agenda. Every gesture of respect masks calculation. In the court of power, sincerity is a liability too dangerous to trust, too rare to expect. So you become an island. Emotion dies first, not all at once, but in stages. The affections become dull, the regrets shorter, the memories suspect. You stop asking if they love you, you stop caring. And in that numbness, you find clarity. Because clarity is born in solitude. It is not kindness that sharpens the mind, it is silence. And in silence, you begin to see the world as it is not as they wish it to be. You begin to see that every friendship is a temporary alliance, every promise a strategy, every gesture a test. And love is a weapon you must allow others to wield, never yourself. A ruler who loves too deeply will bleed too easily. They do not understand what it means to carry the state alone. To know that every failure, every crisis, every betrayal will be traced to you. To know that every face in the crowd looks up not in admiration, but in calculation. What would I do with his power? They do not see your exhaustion. They do not feel the weight. They only see the symbols, the robes, the seal, the voice on the balcony. And that is enough. Let them believe you are made of iron. Let them never see you hesitate. Let them never hear your doubt. You may break in private, but in public, you must remain whole. Because a ruler's weakness is never forgiven. It is inherited by those who seek to replace you. Exile is not punishment. It is preservation. You withdraw not because you are defeated, but because you are becoming sharper. You isolate not to escape, but to listen without noise, to think without manipulation, to see what must be done, regardless of how it will be received. This is where you kill your conscience, where you bury your hesitation, where you trade warmth for clarity. They only respect power, never kindness, and power demands sacrifice not of others, but of the self. You must sacrifice the part of you that craves to be understood, the part that wants to be embraced, the part that still hopes for absolution. There is no absolution in rule. There is only survival. You walk alone because no one else can bear it, and because if they could, they would already be wearing your crown. Time is your true enemy, not the rebel, not the rival, not the foreign king. Time. Because time erodes fear, dulls memory, softens the myth. And no matter how strong you stand, time waits with quiet contempt, unblinking, incorruptible. It takes every ruler in the end, not with swords, but with forgetfulness. You must wage war against time, not by preserving yourself, that is vanity, but by ensuring that your name, your image, your structure becomes the bone of the world that comes after. To die as a man is inevitable. To vanish as a force is a choice. And you must choose every day to become immortal in architecture, in memory, in machinery. But first, you must confront the illusion of legacy. Succession is not a guarantee of stability. It is the moment the wolves gather. Every successor is a gamble, a new variable, a new ambition wearing your colors. You cannot choose loyalty. You can only create dependency. Your successor must not admire you. They must need you, even when you're gone. They must rise within the walls you built, speak with the words you carved into them, and rule over systems too complex to undo without collapse. If you wish your legacy to live, you must design it so it cannot be dismantled. You do not pass on power, you embed it. In traditions, in laws, in stories. Shape history before it is written. Cleanse the archives, reframe the crises. Turn your darkest decisions into moments of necessary brilliance, and bury your mistakes under the weight of your victories. The future must see you not as a man, but as a moment that could not be avoided. A force of nature, a necessary event. And your successor? Never let them grow in your shadow. Let them grow inside your design. Do not choose the strongest. Choose the most dependent. Do not choose the most brilliant. Choose the most loyal to the system, not to you, but to the conditions you created. They must fear undoing you more than they desire surpassing you. They must inherit a throne built not of wood or gold, but of constraints, sacred rituals, unbreakable myths, invisible limits. If they deviate, the entire structure must groan. That is legacy. Not a statue, not a speech, a trap. Set it while you're alive. Let them walk into it when you're gone. And even in your absence, you will rule them. Time will still try to erase you. New faces will rise. New slogans, new enemies. But if you built well, they will still speak your words. They will still govern through your fears, still call your decisions precedent. That is the only immortality that exists in this world. They only respect power, never kindness. And legacy is power extended beyond breath if you dare to cut kindness from the inheritance. Because if your successor is loved more than feared, your empire will not last. They will unravel you in reverse, piece by piece, law by law, lie by sacred lie. And no one will stop them because you taught the people to obey the throne, not the man who built it. So teach them both. Brand your name into the structure. And when the next ruler kneels to be crowned, they will still kneel to you, even if they do not know it. Power must be fed, not with wealth, not with applause, but with fear, discipline, and momentum. Once power begins to rest, it begins to rot. Decadence is not excess, it is inertia. It is the belief that the throne sustains itself, that victories from the past will echo forever, that loyalty outlives vigilance. It is the illusion that the machine will run without the heat of danger or the tension of command. But the machine always rusts, unless it is sharpened in necessity. When comfort spreads, order thins. Your generals become politicians, your ministers become merchants, your soldiers grow sentimental, your people soft, and worst of all, your name becomes familiar. No longer feared, no longer sacred, just remembered, and eventually debated. This is how empires fall, not from invasion, but from memory. When power becomes memory, it loses its teeth. The rituals remain, but the fear is gone. The titles remain, but the obedience is diluted. And your successors, they inherit the throne, but not the storm that forged it. And so, they begin to speak of mercy, of reform, of progress. And like sheep dressed in your old armor, they open the gates to be loved. But love is always followed by disappointment, and disappointment by revolt. You must understand, every generation grows further from the necessity that created order. They forget what chaos felt like. They forget what your enemies once looked like. They forget why you did what had to be done. And in their forgetting, they grow bold. They begin to question the walls that protected them. They mock the sacrifices they never made. They confuse their inherited safety for wisdom. And then they challenge the structure. Decadence is not indulgence, it is disconnection. The ruler who forgets fear forgets how to rule. Do not allow your institutions to grow fat. Starve them of luxury. Feed them with tension. Let even your most comfortable servants know that nothing is permanent, not favor, not fortune, not safety. Let your court whisper stories of those who fell for less. Remind them, because if they do not fear falling, they will stop climbing, and when no one climbs, the rot takes hold, slowly, quietly, like damp in the foundation, invisible until it breaks. And if you allow it, they will turn your regime into memory, your victories into anecdotes, your sacrifices into controversy, your name into debate. So you must never grow tired, never grow kind, never grow too admired. Power must be rehearsed constantly, like war games, like a religion. It must be enforced, questioned, feared, and then reasserted. Even gods fade when no one trembles at their altar. They only respect power, never kindness. And kindness, in decadence, becomes currency for your enemies. It will be used to prove you were weak. It will be cited to justify your undoing. They will say you softened, that you compromised, that your empire deserved to fall because it no longer had the will to stand. And perhaps they will be right, if you allow it, if you rest, if you forget that power, unlike marble, cannot be preserved. It must be fed, or it feeds on itself. And in the end, it is always hungry, the final form becoming the system. At the end, you no longer rule. You are the rule. The man fades, the name remains. The decisions echo in the bones of cities, in laws spoken by mouths that never knew your voice, in the fear that governs even those who never saw your shadow. You no longer need presence. You've become structure. This is the final evolution of power, when you do not need to be obeyed, because obedience has become the air they breathe. You are no longer the hand. You are the pressure that makes the hand move. No more speeches, no more threats, just inertia. Your enemies will think they've outlived you, that they have claimed your throne, rewritten your truths, erased your sins. But they will speak the language you codified. They will govern with the tools you forged. They will fight rebellions born from the silence you designed. They will justify their cruelties with your logic. And when they falter, they will reach for your methods and call them their own. This is the highest power, to shape the world so thoroughly that it no longer remembers being shaped. The people will believe they are free and never know how deep your cage runs. They will praise their progress while marching down paths you carved in stone. You will be gone, but you will remain, not as a savior, not as a villain, but as the ground itself. And that is how you win, by making power self-sustaining, by becoming untraceable, by being no longer a man but a condition. You began as a will, you end as a fate. They will call it culture, law, order. They will never call it by your name, but it will be yours. All of it. And they will obey it without knowing why. Because they only ever respected power, never kindness. And now, you are power. Silent, absolute, undeniable. The world bends around you, and no one remembers the bending. This is the end, cold, unrelenting, victorious.